let's talk about phishing and how you can spot phishing and protect yourself. If you follow these rules and guidelines, generally speaking, you will be able to figure out that the email that you receive, the phone call that you receive, or whatever communication or even mail that you receive is phishing. Now, let me explain to you what phishing is all about for those of you who don't know what phishing is. Let's say, for example, that you use eBay, and then you get an email that says you have violated eBay's terms and conditions. You see, generally, the email starts out with something that is trying to strike fear into you by saying something like you did something wrong. But in reality, what they're trying to do is to get you to click on the link, get you to log in to a fake site where they basically can figure out your username and password and or any other information that you might be providing. Now, phishing was very, very popular back in the day, and I still remember receiving an email from eBay because I'm using this example, but I still remember receiving an email from eBay and saying you have violated the seller policies. Because at that time, I still remember selling on eBay and thinking, oh crap, what did I do that was wrong? I don't think I did anything wrong, but you know what? I almost clicked on the link and I almost logged in. But if you look carefully at the email, generally speaking, number one, the email is not written well. So a lot of spelling mistakes, a lot of grammatical errors. Or number two, you click on the link, it doesn't say ebay.com. It says something like www.xyz.com/eBay. And that's where a lot of people get you, is if you don't look at the link that you click, or look at the link itself before you click it, then that can be problematic. So I've actually gone to Google and went to their images section just to pull up some examples of phishing emails. Now, a lot of times, as you can see here, you'll probably not be able to see this because it's kind of blurry, but the link itself says ebay.com. But if you hover over the link, you'll actually be able to see whether that link is truly ebay.com. Now, I don't recommend you clicking on it because it could have spyware. But let me give you an example here. If I'm using an internet browser and I go to Google and I hover over any link, you notice in the bottom left-hand corner, you're able to see the link change. So even though it might say, like for example here, speedtest.net, if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner, I'm going to zoom in here, that is the actual link. So even though the link says ebay.com, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go to ebay.com. The way you can tell the real true link is by looking at the bottom left-hand corner. So if you are suspicious of the email that you received, highlight the link and look at the bottom left-hand corner. If it does not say ebay.com or whatever your bank site is, it's probably a phishing email. So that's number two, something that you can look for. Another thing, if the links look something like this, for example, nationwide email phishing right here, the links don't actually show the URL, but if you hover over the mouse here and you see in the bottom right-hand corner, this is actually image, so it's not a link, but if you hover over it and you don't see nationwide.com, instead you see something like nationwide.xyz.com, then it's most likely going to be a phishing email. And generally speaking, most people are not going to ask for sensitive information if they already have it. So that's another thing to look for. So those things, generally speaking, are great ways to figure out if the email is trying to phish for your sensitive data. Another thing, if you go to the website, this is a good example here, but if you go to the website, for example, Facebook, a lot of these phishing sites will try to mimic the way that the site looks like. So even though it looks like Facebook, if you look at the top of the URL at the top, and it doesn't say facebook.com, then most likely it's a phishing site. So looking at the URL is key. And looking at another phishing email, as you can see, spelling errors, links in email, threats, and anything that brings out, okay, you did this, you did that, you did this, or anything like that. People could call you on the phone and do the same. They can threaten you and say, hey, you have done this, you have done that. Make sure that you say, okay, if you're truly that company, can you give me some information about me? Now, keep in mind that some of these phishing companies will have information about you. The best thing you can do is say, I'll call you back if you give me your information. And then you call, let's say, for example, your bank. You call the bank and say, is this a legitimate number? And if it is a legitimate number, you can call that number back.